Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with this session. This session is the effect of COVID-19 on our economy and the MSME landscape. We will go ahead and get started in about a minute. So the way this usually goes is I give a
Good morning.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with this session. This session is so I go ahead and so I introduce the campaign, I introduce the Bob, and then we give up an opportunity for our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our introduction. My name is Wande Adams. I lead the team at the Bob Africa. So the Bob Africa is running a campaign all over COVID-19, and we'll talk about so what the campaign really means to us is that we as a people will definitely rise above all over COVID-19. I'm sorry, we'll definitely rise above this current pandemic, COVID-19. However, in our lockdown, in being responsible and practicing social distancing, what are the ways that we can impact the public? What are the ways we can add value? So we believe that we are truly living in unique times. The COVID-19 pandemic is really impacting everyone from our families to our businesses and all of those who are taking care of the affected ones among us. The situation continues to affect our world, and it is important that we stay engaged with the public. In doing this, we believe we have an opportunity to impact our community in a unique way. The Bulb is a tech incubator and a training platform. So why can't we do what we do by leveraging on technology to impact our world? This is why we have decided to have several live virtual events to add value during this time. These events include live sessions with healthcare experts, both locally and abroad. These panelists include physicians, mental health practitioners, nurses, pediatricians, and public health professionals. We had the first session on Monday. They were very insightful and very educative as to what they are seeing, and they gave us, their firsthand experience with what they're dealing with in the US, mostly, being that the US is now the epicenter of the pandemic. We had an ideathon on Wednesday. An ideathon for us was simply a way to dialogue on what some people are currently doing, some of the ideas they've come up with, and how we can take these ideas to become a more proactive nation when it comes to our healthcare. It was a fantastic session. I had the opportunity to moderate on Wednesday. We had the CEO of Enter5 KMDAB and the CEO of Findwalker, Dele Bakare, discussing some of the good work that they've been doing with City Health Report and Versus. We're going to have some Instagram live sessions next week. We're going to interview some tech founders next week to talk to us about what's going on with their business and what opportunities are they seeing with even in the face of the current situation. We will have a virtual pitch day focused on healthcare solutions in tech. We will use this opportunity to find a startup that we can incubate at the Bulb and potential investing. Finally, we have several free training sessions in subjects like Lean Six Sigma, introduction to our agile methodology, introduction to data science, and introduction to data analysis. Our programs run on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and our training sessions run on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. For more information, you can visit allovercovid19.com. You can search for the hashtag allovercovid19. You can follow the Bob Africa on all social media platforms, and you can just visit our website, thebob.africa. But first, this is an opportunity to learn about the Bob, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the Bob Africa. So the Bob is a platform. It's a tech platform for all. We are a platform. We're an incubator and an accelerator program. We're a training facility, and we are a recruitment platform. So we create employment opportunities as well. Our vision is to be the largest Africa's largest network of tech incubation, empowering the next generation of incubate in and startups. How are we a platform? So we break down our services between individuals and corporations. So for individuals, we offer startup programs for entrepreneurs who have fantastic ideas or proof of concept, and they would like to see their idea become business realities. We help train individuals to become software engineers and build a career as a software engineer. We build and are a part of several communities that we can recommend to tech experts, tech enthusiasts to join and to continue to network and grow their career. We're a training platform for individuals as well. So you want to upskill yourself in any of the tech areas. You want to learn agile. You want to pick up another tech stack to learn. The Bob is the place to get some of those information. We're also on a platform for employment, and we host a series of events, most especially around startups throughout the year, and you will hear some of our flagship events as we go. We're a platform for businesses as well. We help businesses with job placement. We help businesses hire developers and software engineers in general. We partner with businesses in doing several startup programs and several CSR programs, and we are very big on partnerships. So we're very big on corporate partnerships, NGO partnerships, and then we are big on making sure that we can be impactful in our world by sponsoring some unique events and initiatives. So at the Bob, again, we're a startup platform training. For resources, we are building a bank of resources for the tech ecosystem that if you need any information about how to build a global product, how to build a futuristic product, how to pick up a training program, how to start a business, you need lawyers, you need to learn about copywriting and trademarking your ideas and your businesses. You can come to the Bob Africa and go to our resources page and learn more and get more information. We have a beautiful workspace, which I'll talk about in the next slide. Again, we're a community of communities, and then we're very huge when it comes to partnership. Our building is located on 39 Ikorodu Road in Yaba and Jibo. And right there on our ground floor, we have a co-working space. Our co-working space is called The Desk. For more information, you can visit desk.africa or go to thebob.africa. With our co-working space, we incubate startups, the tech startups that we find their idea or their startup to be promising. We have the facilities 24/7, 24-hour power, 24-hour internet. It's equipped with meeting rooms and a boardroom and a monitor and mouse. So all you really have to do to use our co-working space is to show up with your laptop. For more information, again, on the desk.africa. Some of our events, our flagship events over the course of the year, African Concept Expo, which would be sort of like our biggest event. We will begin the first edition next year, March next year. It's an exposition of several tech inventions across Africa coming under one roof, talking about what they've come up with. We are partnering with an American accelerator, Techstars, to run what we call Startup Week. The first one will be in Lagos, and right now the pandemic is sort of messing with our schedule, but it was initially scheduled to happen sometime in September. But as we come up with dates, we'll share. We also take the Bob on the road, where we take some of our startups that we're incubating that we feel like are ready for the next level. We take them on the road. It could be Silicon Valley, it could be another accelerator in Europe or in Asia. But so Bob on the road was slated to happen in May. We don't know what's going to be happening with our dates again. And then finally, we have our own version of African Women in Tech, Tech Joe, headed by our program manager, Modro Simeti. For more information, please reach out to any of our platforms on social media, on LinkedIn, or our website, thebob.africa. So all over COVID-19, again, just helps us with, it's our own way of giving back. It's our own way of adding value during this period. And today we have an opportunity to speak with some important people. We are going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the economy, how COVID is affecting the economy, and we're going to be talking about how this is affecting small businesses. If you know anything about how the economy works, you would know that in the biggest economies in the world, they rely on small businesses because small businesses are the ones who create jobs. Small businesses are the ones who pay taxes, and those taxes are what the government uses in running some of their social and governmental programs. So it gives me, it is a pleasure for me to introduce to our panelists today. I am willing to, I'm open to learning a lot, and I know that we're going to be learning a lot. I hope that there are some businesses here ready to learn, and I hope that there are a lot of people ready to know how this is really affecting us. What's the, like this information that we're going to get today, it's really, it goes into our pockets. So I have Victor Alui from Commercial Partners, is the head portfolio management at Commercial Partners. And then I have Damilola Roshewe, is the senior manager, SME management, MTN. Good morning, guys. I will open up the floor. Please, let's go with Victor first. Could you please introduce yourself?
All right, thanks a lot, Wendy. Good morning, everybody. My name is Victor Alui, like Wendy rightly introduced. I head portfolio management at Commercial Partners Asset Management. My background essentially has been in, investment management and investment research. So, have expertise in the areas of, investment analysis, macroeconomic analysis, looking at financial markets and all that. So that's where my expertise is. At Commercial Partners, we are, a fast-growing investment management boutique firm. Basically have three strategic business units. We have the asset management unit, which is where I sit. We also have the capital management unit, or the advisory units, which basically caters to debt and equity capital market needs for large and medium-sized corporates as well. We help to package, offers. We also help with restructuring. The recently concluded Lagos State bond offer, where on that as one of the runners or the underwriters of that issue. We also have the trading arm, which also essentially specializes in trading of various securities, both locally and abroad, ranging from stock market to fixed income market, to derivatives, to Euro bonds as well. So those are the three strategic business units that make up the Commercial Partners Group, which I represent here today. Thank you very much.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Victor. Dami, could you please introduce yourself? Before we do that, I noticed that we don't have our videos on. It would be nice for the audience to be able to put a face to the speaker. So please, can we just go ahead and turn our videos on? Thank you. So go ahead, Dami, could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Okay, hi everyone. Good morning. My name is Damilola Roshewe. I am the senior manager for SME segment management at MTN. So basically, I started my career in banking, I think the first 7-8 years, and roughly around the last decade, I've been in marketing with MTN, developing solutions for the small and medium enterprises and also the large enterprises. During this period, we've developed quite a lot of solutions for the insurance sector, banking sector, manufacturing, FMCGs, and now more importantly, for the last 4 years, I've been looking at SMEs, developing solutions from this one-man business all the way to the medium enterprises and across different verticals. So I'm glad to be here. I hope we all keep it safe. and know that as much as it is bad, it is whoever is alive that can do business. So we need to keep safe and stay at home. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So let's go into it. Let's go into it. So we know that we all need to social distance. So what is happening is businesses have shut down. For me, a lot of businesses now have to adopt some we do in our field, which is technology. And we will have a conversation around how technology plays a role during this period and the future of African businesses and technology in the next panel at 1 o'clock. So I'm looking at it. You know, when you read the news, when you watch CNN, which most people are doing a lot lately, you would notice that there is a big correlation between the economy and our lives and protecting ourselves. There was a big call that our leaders had to make very early that they were struggling with, which was shut down everything and less safe. However, doing that, the economy starts to slow down. And I don't know, for example, in America, they've been touting the economy for a very long time because they've been seeing steady growth. And then now everything is just on a downward spiral. About 6.6 million people now applying for unemployment. So Victor, talk to us. What's going on around the world, and then what's going on here at home when it comes to.
All right, thanks a lot, Wendy. So I think, you know, in economic analysis, we also tend to draw quite significantly from history. What is happening today is not new. It has happened before. We had what you call the popularly referred to as the Spanish flu. It happened between 1918 and 1919. If we were to draw from some lessons or make certain conclusions based on that experience, that pandemic essentially wiped out almost 1% of the US population at the time. Almost 1% of the US population at the time. You know, so that was significant. It took out about 1.25% of their GDP at the time. What you found then was that a lot of service companies suffered quite greatly because, of course, the ailments basically sequestered a lot of demand. So what you're seeing today is it's not an economic crisis, right? It's a health crisis, but it is a health crisis that, you know, could certainly potentially lead to an economic crisis. And how is that so? That is so because you have what I would refer to as significant demand destruction, right? And the reason it's, you know, this huge is because of the fact that where this, you know, crisis sort of emanated from and how it has shifted has basically touched on the growth machines of the global economy. So for context, it started out in China. China today is an economic powerhouse, you know, contributes quite significantly to global trade and by extension, the global economy. About 40% of global trade happens through China. So clearly, when you have a health challenge that needs you to shut down economic activity because you're trying to contain that health challenge, it certainly has its economic implications. And then the crisis then morphed and moved to Western Europe. Western Europe is also an economic powerhouse. And today we're seeing an epicenter in the United States. The United States has been the largest economy in the world for the last 70 odd years and even remains so. So when you're having significant shut-ins or significant shutdowns in major economic powerhouses of the global economy, you obviously are going to have an economic crisis on your hand down the road, particularly if this health crisis lingers much longer. You know, so a lot really depends on the sort of solution that we're going to have on the biological front. And that is why you have seen what I refer to as unprecedented stimulus packages. We've had economic crisis in the past, and the sort of stimulus package that we're seeing today, cannot be compared. It certainly dwarfs any other kind of stimulus package that we've seen in the past. In the 2008 financial crisis, what you essentially had was a bit of fiscal stimulus and more of monetary stimulus. Today, in the United States, you're having unprecedented monetary stimulus, you're having unprecedented fiscal stimulus, you're having stimulus packages everywhere around the world. Only a couple of days ago, Japan announced a $2 trillion stimulus package. That's 25% of their GDP. That is significant. A quarter of the worth of the economy is what they are putting together to try and, buffer or ring fence, the economy from the impact of, the COVID-19 situation. So, I'm saying all of this to sort of give us a sense of, how tough it probably is out there. But one thing is sure, this is not an economic crisis. It is a biological or health crisis, but it has significant potentials, great potentials to turn into an economic crisis because primarily of one, the demand destruction that you are seeing, two, the supply chain disruptions that has gone on as a result of the shutting. So airlines are grounded. We saw pictures of, airlines stacked, airplanes stacked in airports. These airplanes are not going anywhere. Ordinarily, meetings are supposed to hold physically, people are supposed to travel, but that cannot happen anymore. So you have a lot of demand shorting and then you have supply chain disruption. So clearly, the global economy is hibernating. And, for how long that is going to go on really depends on the kind of situation or the solution that we're able to come up with on the biological front. So suffice it to say that, these are unprecedented times. We have seen this kind of crisis before. But again, the world has changed over the last 90 years. Technology has significantly advanced, but we can certainly draw lessons from what happened. So if you go by what happened in 1918, where the crisis wiped off about 1% of the population of the United States, wiped off about 1.25% of the US GDP. But the difference here was that crisis lasted for about a year, started in the spring of 1918. Matter of fact, you had two waves at the time, started in the spring of 1918, went on to right after the summer of 1918, came back again in the winter of 1918 and lasted up until early spring in 1919. So it was for about a year. So the impact was quite significant. I don't expect that this will last that long because, of course, we have a lot of technological advances. The situation is being put under control as much as possible. And we'll probably expect to see cases starting to sort of plateau, peak, and then probably start to decline towards the end of this month, early next month. So I think these are the things that we sort of grapple with. Locally, the impact can clearly be seen. Businesses are shut down, particularly for SMEs. SMEs don't necessarily have the financial staying power to weather this kind of storm. For large corporates, they probably can go on for a little longer, be able to carry on with their expenses, maybe some cuts here and there. But for the SME, it proves quite significantly difficult to carry on for 2 months thereabouts without any economic activity. If you even drive down to individuals, you have a lot of individuals who are economically empowered daily. So they essentially have to go out daily to get their daily bread, if you will. So the fact that they are shutting for 2 weeks simply means that they are not earning any income for 2 weeks. That's quite significant. And a sizable portion of the economy is within that informal sector. So the impact, not just on the broad economy now, but of course on individual businesses and then on corporates as well, and on individuals and homes. We really are still putting together numbers to try and see what the impact would be. But the earnest hope is that this crisis doesn't linger for much longer, that cases start to peak and then start to drop off in the next 3 weeks thereabouts, and things will recover. And I dare say that if this crisis doesn't linger beyond June, we're likely to see a really decent recovery, because what you're having now is that demand is just shutting. There isn't an absence of demand. It's a case where you cannot actualize that demand right now because economic activity is shut down. Everything is hibernating. Once that goes away, that demand is certainly likely to just come back on stream. So it's important that in these times, businesses stay nimble. try and do away with costs that are absolutely unnecessary right now. You want to stick with costs that are necessary while you continue to bootstrap, because once this is over, I think that demand will come right back up. It will ramp up over some time, but that demand will filter through straight away, and businesses can quickly benefit from that. It's also important for businesses to be innovative around how they want to carry out their businesses days. Thankfully, unlike in 1918, you've got technology today that can enable you, that's a significant enabler to do a lot of things, even for small businesses. So I think the focus should be to stay nimble and stay safe, reduce your cost, and then be innovative in this time, really. So that's my take at this point.
Fantastic. So from what I hear from you, Victor, it sounds like, you know what, guys, calm down. It's just we will get over this, which is a positive message to hear. However, your contribution, really, a lot of people are listening to you and they're worried about, their kitchen, their dining table conversation is, we don't know how long this is going to last. So this is going to affect decisions that families are making as far as investment, as far as what they do with their money, because now we're talking about what affects the pocket, right? So we'll come back to you to dig deeper into how this affects the everyday individual and how it affects, the decisions that they make going forward. But let's go to Dame real quick. The way I want to tailor this is for Dame to talk straight to that business owner and that startup that is just kicking off, that carpenter that has 3 or 4 people working for him and is paying salary, or that businessman that is paying 25, 20, 30, 40 people, relying on the income that's coming into the business. So Dami, could you talk to us about what's going on with our small businesses in Nigeria? What are you seeing around the world, and what is going on in Nigeria?
Thanks, Wendy. So a lot of what Victor says, absolutely spot on. But for businesses in Nigeria, there will be more severe implications. So if you take the UK, there are a lot of stimulus packages, particularly for small businesses. There is a package that allows them to pay their staff about 80% of the salaries they currently earn. They're going to continue to pay that. But we don't have such in Nigeria. Government has released some stimulus packages, but I don't think a lot of this will reach the small and medium businesses in Nigeria. So the implications for us as a country and for small businesses is quite severe. If you take it as, for example, if this ends end of April, if the curve flattens at the end of April, that means effectively you'll have had a full month without economic activities, slow demand, etc. So the initial impact for SMEs is the commercial movements have slowed. They're not able to get in their daily revenues, etc., and they are not able to actually pay their staff. So take the hospitality industry, number one, hotels, restaurants, practically shut down. We're not going out. Everybody's not hanging out anymore. So that industry as a whole is heavily affected. I take the retail. The dimensions of food, the clusters of food have changed. Now, if I was going to go to work last week or the week before, I was about to buy food, fast food, etc., to eat. Now I'm cooking and eating at home. So those clusters, those commercial clusters have also evolved away. No one is taking care of them anymore. I'm now not even talking about the informal sector. That person that cooks for the bricklayers that come to build the building, that has gone. Nobody's building anything anymore. So that informal sector is really heavily affected. So they might have to move their clusters to communities where they are staying indoors and still serve them. Transportation, we're not moving. British Airways has laid off about, 80,000 people? Well, not laid off, but they've told them to at least stay at home for a while. That in itself, then look at Lagos. Moving 25 million people around in Lagos is a huge commercial investment. Now that has shut down. No one is going anywhere. Transportation is manufacturing. Factories are closing down. Education. primary schools, secondary schools. We have private schools out there. Luckily, this happened towards the time where kids were going on vacation. Now, for schools, you now need to start thinking, what happens when we resume? If this stretches to May, how are we going to evolve as a school? So those are the critical things you need to look at. If you look at each vertical and each sector of the small and medium segment, you realize that the impact is so severe in Nigeria, which is one of the things that we look at MTN to say, okay, how do we ensure that we are able to alleviate some part of this? The industry contributes 84% of employment in Nigeria, the small and medium enterprises. So what you can see is the prayer is this should not evolve into May, because they don't have enough cash flow to continually pay staff as at May. If some of them even decide to do that, how long will their cash remain for them to pay salaries? So my own approach is threefold. For example, businesses, depending on the type of business that you do, because right now we're all at home, our objectives have changed. What I do most now is I cook. There's a lot of cooking at home. You're not eating out anymore. You're not buying fuel like that per se, unless you want to fuel your gen. You're not shopping for clothes. You're not hanging out. You don't have meetings. You're not, there's a lot that has changed. So for businesses that are still lucky enough to be serving people while they're home, they need to evolve the way they manage their customers. Number one, you have an existing base of customers. You now need to find a way to reach them continuously. That is the key, critical way of staying alive. You have the customers already. You've done the work of getting them. You need to engage them extensively. Number one, how are you doing that? What CRM tools do you have? Do you have information about your customer outside of their phone numbers? Are you engaging them in terms of, okay, can you do deliveries of food? Can you do this? Can you do Y? How are you moving? So those are some of the things that businesses need to quickly first do. Stay alive, get the customers that you have on your base, and try and engage them actively. Number two, they need to evolve rapidly. We pray that this does not extend beyond April end. And that requires everyone staying at home and everyone maintaining social distances. But we know our reality as a country. And I'm not trying to be a doomsday, but you need to now plan and say, how do you evolve? If you are, like I mentioned, if you're a school, for example, kids are supposed to resume end of April. Are you thinking about the tools you need to now start buying as a school to evolve? Yeah, the children can still resume school, but online. So there is Google Classrooms, there is Microsoft for Education, there's Edmodo, there's a lot of tools out there that you can now equip your school with to remotely teach students. Now, this might not apply across the board because it's not every category of students or teachers or schools that have access to data and all those things. But that is where, as a telco, we are looking at to say, okay, how do we position that everyone has access to this? The way of world of working of businesses is going to totally change. We had to evolve. Now my kids do music lessons. We had to evolve. Now they do that via WhatsApp video. So the teacher has evolved in his own way of communicating, and he has continued to earn the salary while the stay-at-home is on. So that evolving is so important, particularly for different verticals. If you're in retail, you need to now look at your supply chain. How do I ensure that my distribution is ongoing during this time? How is my service quality? How am I managing my customers? So different things have to change. So that's one, staying alive, evolve rapidly. Then the third one is your teams. How do you ensure that your workforce, they are ready for this remote working? If I have to ask everyone, how has it been working remotely, managing your teams, ensuring that they're doing what they're supposed to do, trusting them to be doing what they're supposed to do, monitoring and managing all that, equipping them with the right resources to do that. And basically a lot of tools to ensure that you can manage your teams from the basic CUG, where calls within a certain company are free. It reduces the cost of communication, data cost. There are bigger bundles you can buy. Yep.
Let me, sorry, 1 second. I want to be able to make sure that we take this in phases, right? Because
Okay.
where I wanted to drive the conversation to next is, and which I think you started going in. What types of decisions should we start making now? For, in your case, what type of decisions should small to medium businesses need to start making now to prepare themselves, not just for, because as you know, we're not going to go back to what we know as the norm, right? A lot of conventions and so talk to us about, decision making and the best practices out there. And then after you take that, we will go to Victor to talk to us about the types of decisions that people should be making when it comes to their investments and when it comes to how this is affecting the economy. So let's go ahead and continue. What types of decisions should we start making as businesses, and how do we progress?
Okay. It all depends on the type of business you're in. That will determine the kind of decisions you need to make. Also depends on the kind of customers that you're serving. If you're serving digitally savvy customers, you know where to reach them. If you take the network, for example, MTN has about 68 million customers. Roughly about 30 million of those have smartphones. So you still know that there's a whole lot of the customers out there without smartphones. So how do you reach them? So those decisions will is basically built on the kind of business you do, the kind of customers you have, and how you want to reach them. So if I start from the critical things is, number one, you need to make your business as much as you can. You need to make sure that you can deliver your goods and services as remotely as you can, if you can. For construction, the honest truth is there's so much you can do to remotely build a building. All right, but as much as you can, you need to now equip yourself to be able to have certain meetings remotely as much as possible. For retail, which is really what drives Nigerian economy, trade, delivery and logistics is going to become a very important part of our future going forward. And I say this because it's a big economy, and you cannot have a service that people can't buy online. And I'll give you a case and study. We have a router, NFlex, for example, and basically for you to get that, you need to go to a shop and buy it. What we've had to do is to move all this back to Jumia. And Jumia does the delivery, and we engage the customers and get them registered. So a lot of businesses need to start thinking of, how do I get my business online? That's the first thing. How can I research online, discovered online, then how can my customers get those services also remotely? That's one of the very critical things businesses need to start looking at as well. What tools can you do to achieve this? There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of tools that take you online. There's Google. Google has a lot of business tools that can also quickly get a business online very quickly. Search engine optimization that can also, when people search for you, they see you. Outside of that, you now need to start looking for tools that market your business. So there's a lot to do on social media, Instagram, Facebook, even SMS. You can still send those bulk SMS, targeted bulk SMS, certain groups, or say, look, this is what I do, and if you need it, this is how you need to get it. So, and that is evolving very rapidly. We have technology coming, going forward, and a business just needs to make sure it's visible online, and people can search. The 2 million of us in Nigeria, there is a big market everyone wants to play. But that capability of being online is so essential. Then your staff, you need to equip them. They need to be able to work remotely. You need to be able to have meetings with them remotely. Cost-effective bundles that addresses this. So you need to start looking for what works for your own business. very quick and move on. Whatever vertical you are, you need to start looking at what works for me and how do I innovate quickly. Wanda? Hello? You're muted. Hello?
Wanda, your mic is muted.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dami. Fantastic. Victor, talk to us what should be doing as we're looking at the numbers and not just locally now. We're looking at this globally because as you know, as this is affecting the bigger economies, it will trickle down. How do we what types of decisions do we need to start making? And then looking at so you have to break down the cadre of people, right? So there are the low income earners, there are those who are in the middle class, and then there are those potentially, I would say, are the job providers, right? What types of decisions should we start making to make sure that even as going on, we are still looking at, people's risk appetite is going to start changing. You can imagine people are now going to start pulling back, and pulling back will affect us. So what types of decisions should we start making?
Okay, thanks very much, Wendy. So, I mean, these are extraordinary economic times. So clearly, in terms of decision making, the key word really is safety, right? And I'm not talking safety in terms of staying safe health-wise. I'm talking safety, and I'm talking preservation of wealth and preservation of capital. So for the low-income earners, this is clearly a time where if you're still able to earn, maybe you're not earning optimally. If you're still able to earn, where you certainly want to save a bit more, because like Dami mentioned, we really aren't sure how this is going to pan out. We essentially just pray that things would, blow over as quickly as they can. We're not sure how long it's going to stay for. So in these kinds of economic uncertainties, you want to save a bit more. And that's what happens really once there are economic uncertainties. You would see that people, individuals, households, and even corporates tend to save a bit more so that you have enough staying power or ammunition, if you will, to weather the storm. Like I said, we're still, pretty much like in the eye of the storm. The storm is still raging. So you want to have, firepower to be able to be out there once the storm is gone. So clearly for low-income earners, this is a time when you want to cut back on certain expenses, want to cut back on certain wants, on certain, frivolous spending. Thankfully, we're all at home. So really, the only thing you probably be spending a lot more on is maybe, food and maybe data, so, and those are essential things that you have to actually spend on to stay plugged in and to stay connected to the world. So, but again, I think the key word or the watchword for low income earners or just normal income earners is to try and save more, try and ensure that you're building up some sort of ammunition for when all of this is over, and for when the impact that you obviously did not envisage would hit home. So those are some of the things that individuals would be looking to do. For corporates, again, like I think Dami sort of espoused pretty much on that. I mean, this is when you want to really stay nimble. This is when you want to leverage technology, see how you can still earn or still be in business, so that you can still keep going. You also want to ensure that you are able to provide the right tools for your business to still keep going and for people that work for you to still be engaged and continue to do the things that they do. It's also important to mention that in this sort of crisis, there are always opportunities, particularly opportunities for investments. In 2008, when the global financial markets collapsed and the US government essentially came in to bail out, the big banks in the US, I remember very clearly a bank like Citibank stock price dropped from as high as $79 to about $3. And you had people who bought it up at $3. And just 2-3 years down the line, they were able to sell at above $30. I mean, you can't even begin to calculate that sort of return. It's mind-boggling. So there are opportunities. The key thing you want to look at, particularly even for high net worth individuals, is to preserve your wealth. Unfortunately, the way that Nigeria's economy is structured, the way that our economy is, puts us in dire straits, really. So our economy is largely import dependent. We import pretty much everything, and because the global market or the global trade is priced in US dollars. It means that for everything you're bringing in, you have to buy dollars, and so you have the collapse of crude prices on one hand that has led to a sharp reduction in government revenue, and by extension, you're beginning to see pressure on the naira. Then on the other hand, you see that we are continuing to bring in things because obviously we have to keep living as a people. So these have implications on your wealth as an individual. If I give a simple example, in 2000 and up until 2014, and for the longest time, I think from probably around 2010 to 2009 to about 2014, the naira was about 155 to $1, and it's still really stable for quite a while. Crude prices were very strong through that period, so it basically supported the naira. But in 2014, obviously, crude prices collapsed, started having those pressures, and between 2015 and 16, there was a devaluation of the currency, and it had serious implications. For instance, in 2014, you wanted to buy a brand new car then, 9-10 million, you could buy a brand new car then. By like 2016, 2017, that same car was going for like 20-something million naira. So you essentially needed more naira to buy pretty much the same thing. So your wealth had pretty much been eroded. So in this kind of times, for corporates, for high net worth individuals, even for middle income earners, you really want to preserve your wealth, because this situation has potentials to eat away at whatever wealth that you have built. And there are a number of solutions, a number of ways that you can go about doing that I suppose we'll probably delve into as the session continues.
Fantastic. Thank you, Victor. So I want to go back to you, right? I know that we saw one of the things that you said is that, I think that we're fortunate enough that this is coming at a time when we're seeing growth in economies of the world, and the economy, and so you're saying that this is not really an economic issue, right? But then and then you also talked about several stimulus packages that has been given. Would you please explain, the stimulus package that has been given, that Nigeria has put out there? Could you please explain the benefits?
Well, so those stimulus packages are basically to try and, if you will, reduce the potential impact or potential economic impact of this health challenge. Because, like I said, the health challenge is leading to shut-ins, demand destruction, supply chain disruption, which is obviously affecting economic activity. So these economic stimulus packages are there to sort of assuage, if you will, the impact or potential impact of the economic fallouts from the COVID-19 situation. I think, like Dami mentioned earlier, a number of packages have been put out, by the central bank, looking to bolster or support certain aspects of the economy. But the truth of the matter is that the fine details of the execution of those, I'm not sure of those details. I'm not sure how the government will go about implementing some of them. But one of the major things, particularly that will benefit corporates and maybe certain SMEs, of course, is the moratorium on interest payments, rescheduling of interest payments, which the central bank has mandated banks to do with some of their clients. So clearly, for companies that are going to have issues repaying those interests right now, there can be an extension, there can be a moratorium, which means that over the next maybe 2-3 months, probably up to 6 months, as the guideline states, you don't pay any interest on what you're owing. So I think it would give corporates some sort of breather, some sort of allowance to be able to weather the storm and come out of it. In terms of support to small businesses, which is really critical, I really haven't seen any clear indication as to what is being done specifically or directly in that area. And these kinds of moratoriums, really, unfortunately, SMEs really never benefit from it. You know, it's really the large corporates that benefit from it. So I'm not so clear on how you know, the Apex Bank or the fiscal authorities want to go about that. Only a few days ago in the US, another 2.3 trillion stimulus package was just approved, and majority of that really is for the SMEs in that economy. You know, so maybe in the days to come, we'll probably will see certain pronouncements as to how, you know, the government wants to specifically support SMEs in these tough times. You know, because what we've seen so far, I think, are measures that will largely benefit large corporates, which is also good for the economy. And these corporates employ a lot of people. They generate quite significant economic activity. That is great, but it's also important to support, I believe, a significant consumption base of the economy, which is the SMEs. You know, so probably in the coming days, we're going to see, you know, a policy pronouncement or some rollout as to how the government wants to specifically support the SMEs. But I think what stimulus packages are doing right now is to, if you will, create some sort of you know, ring fence, backstop against the potential economic crisis that is looming as a fallout or in the aftermath of this COVID-19 challenge. So I think those are the issues that we'll basically continue to grapple with. And I want to believe that you know, the Ministry of Finance you know, will come out with something specifically for the SMEs, you know, in the coming days.
So we lost Dami. Hopefully we'll come back and join us, because
Sure.
I want to ask him about some of the things that that MTN is now doing for, because you can imagine, MTN is going to benefit from this, because people are buying it or anyhow, are buying it because the only way we can communicate. So I want to know, I want to ask Dami what MTN is doing for me. To what you've just said, as far as, so you and I can continue the conversation.
Sure.
It gets back to what you just said as far as making sure what the government is for SMEs. So when you look at these large economies that are really focusing on SMEs, because when you look at the numbers, they are the number of job creators in your economy, right? And when it gets to the point where SMEs have to start making the hard decision of laying people off and of giving people paid time, unpaid time off, then we're beginning how this will now trickle down to different homes, and that now becomes an economic problem. As you said from the beginning, this is not an economic problem, and we will get out of this. What do you think we can do so that we don't get to the point? See, the reason why the US is taking care of SMEs right now is because they know that if, in fact, people start they start to share jobs, right now there are about 6 point something million people filing for unemployment. Unemployment cases keeps increasing. We don't have those types of numbers yet, I don't believe, of filing for unemployment. So you can imagine what, how we already have an unemployment challenge even before this. Now, for people to start losing their jobs, for people not be to be able to pay their bills, it becomes a bigger what as a nation.
Okay. The truth of the matter is that, so we have a really large informal sector, and which a lot of SMEs fall into. So within that sector, the capturing of data is significantly limited and impaired. So you're unable to really, you know, if you will, account for a sizable amount of those SMEs. So in terms of government intervention there, I think one of the challenges that government probably has is the fact that they're unable to get the proper data within that sector, and also obviously arrive at the sort of number that will make an impact, you know, for that sector. But regardless of that challenge, I think there are certainly ways through which, you know, the government can, you know, get the necessary data and try to put out some sort of support package there for them. Like you mentioned, we've grappled with, unemployment challenges for quite a while, so this is just essentially exacerbating, the situation. If SMEs continue to take these hits, it would certainly trickle into homes and affect their purchasing power. Like I said, I mean, when I say that this is not an economic crisis, I'm essentially speaking to the root cause of what we're facing right now. It's not as though the credit markets froze up. It's not as though demand economically or globally just dropped. It's a case where there's a biological challenge that has created a situation where demand has to be shortened, supply chains have had to be disrupted, and that obviously would potentially lead to economic challenges down the road. And all of these stimulus packages is essentially envisaging the sort of economic challenges that we could have down the road and try to sort of nip them in the bud when they do appear. So truth of the matter is that this is essentially going to lead to an economic issue, the severity of which would depend on how long this whole COVID-19 situation lasts for. So it clearly is important that government rolls out something to help with the SMEs, because they employ quite a sizable number of people, and the impact on the SMEs will be just direct. In fact, there's almost no latency there. The impact is direct. You're going to feel it directly. Homes are going to feel it directly. And this could potentially then lead to some social problems down the road. I was talking to someone yesterday. They stepped out to just get something, and they saw a couple of young guys banded around holding placards saying, "Oh, please, if you have any job for me to quickly do, or you have anything you can support me with, please help me." So you're looking at able-bodied people unable to do any work right now. We might get to a situation where, a lot of SMEs are going to start to put their employees on furlough. So that is potentially a huge problem. So what the government really can do is to provide some sort of backstop, because again, a lot of these SMEs don't have access to loans. So those moratoriums and co wouldn't necessarily work for them. Whether a cash handout is the solution, that's a different thing altogether. I think government has to figure out a way to, provide some sort of support to the SMEs to ensure that they still stay in business, and they are still able to pay their staff, meet their obligations, at least for another couple of months, which by which time I believe this situation should be behind us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Victor. So we've been having this conversation for about an hour now. Dami, I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back. Again, and I think that's the concerning part for me now, right? Like, as a businessman, there are tough decisions that has to be made, and there is no hope, so to speak. We don't know how we can get, because the next question I was going to ask you, Victor, you already answered, was I was going to ask you what type of opportunities are out there for SMEs to access? Are there special programs or loans or deferment of payments that small businesses can access? You've already talked about that. I want to go to Dami real quick. And as we are wrapping up, but before I go to Dami, I want to make sure that our audience knows that they can ask questions. We can take comments as well. You can go on our, if you are watching on YouTube Live, you can put your questions and comments in the comment box. You can ask questions on Twitter, the Bob Africa, and then our host will get those questions to us as we get them, and our panelists will be glad to answer them. So Dami, quickly,
Yeah.
what is talk to us about what MTN is doing. I know that the demand for your services are increasing because businesses now have to rely on data. Businesses have to rely on voice. What are the packages that MTN has put out there? If you can just list them as you.
Okay. So collaboration tools, I will start with the basic collaboration tools. How do you reach out to your staff? So we have the CUG offers, closed user groups. Can you hear me? So we have the closed user groups.
Yes.
We're also a CSP partner with Microsoft. So we have a free offer from Microsoft, which gives you 1 terabyte of storage, email, and free Microsoft Teams, which you can use for your regular team meetings, project management, etc. This comes if you purchase INF Flex. So I'll also speak about INF Flex. INF Flex is our router service, is a home broadband solution. And we curated or developed this with the SME in mind. Basically, it comes with an inbuilt battery, which can last you from 2 to 3 hours. It is also one of the highest category of devices out there. So I'll just briefly explain what I mean by that. So for our phones, the network input you get would also be impacted by the type of device you use. So if you have a router that are strong, maybe a category 4 device, your output will be very, 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 very weak. But if you have a very good device, which is like a category 6, like the INF Flex, it enables you to have better internet experience. So we have the INF Flex, which is specially created for SMEs with unlimited and cap plans, which would address all your data needs. And the data bundles are also different from what obtains for normal consumers. They're cheaper and are more cost effective for SMEs. Outside of that, if you move on, we have solutions for different verticals. For churches, for example, if you want to keep spreading the word of God and you have audiences or your congregation that don't have access to data, there is a plan that zero rates your web page, your church web page, and allows your congregation to access your videos or your Sunday services free of charge. But the church buys a large bundle which the church feeds from. So there's also that. There is Call Assist, which is a simple IVR service. Allows you to engage your customers remotely. So for example, what do I mean by that? So one day you are CEO, for example, you have 25 call center agents or 25 guys that are salespeople in the field. What you can do is from one central number, you can route to these 25 mobile numbers and they will pick depending on who is available. So you don't have to miss a beat. You don't have to, miss your customers. Your team or your sales team, your service teams do not have to stay idle. They can still engage. Your customers can still engage. We've done it for some companies. The Call Assist service, which is the Call IVR, currently being used by a lot of hospitals now because a lot more doctors are consulting online. So the hospital has a central number, and when customers or patients call in, they have to consult to different doctors on the go while the doctors are at home, some form of telemedicine also. So depending on the vertical, there are quite a lot of solutions that we are working on. And for example, we're working with Microsoft to also develop a Microsoft for Education to be ready just in time for school resumption, in case kids still have to stay at home for an extra 1 month. There are tools for primary and secondary schools to use so that you don't have to not pay your teachers' salaries for that period. You can still engage parents because look, people have kids at home. The kids need to be engaged. So there are tools for schools to also share with parents so that the kids can be engaged on an ongoing basis. So that's a summary high level of some of the products that we have that we're working on. And as we get more, anyone, SMEs can contact us on letstalk.ng@mtn.com, and we'll be able to help and assist them in any way possible. Thank you.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you how you can be reached. So I'm glad that that you put out there. I was going to ask you how people can access these because as you've listed them, I'm not sure that people can go ahead.
So what I'll do is I'll also send it on a chat to the group. It's letstalktogether.ng@mtn.com. letstalk.ng@mtn.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dami. So Victor, before I we come to you, what we've heard so far is for businesses, prioritize safety, adapt and use digital tools to continue to serve your customers and get the right message out to your customers and potential customers. So, what message do you have for people? And I like where how you started in a very optimistic way that and which is what all over COVID-19 our campaign is all about, that we can stay positive in this trying time. Talk to us, what advice do you have for people as we continue to deal with this?
Okay. So from my own perspective, particularly with respect to an investment perspective, which I've sort of spoken earlier about, is the fact that for individuals, particularly for middle income, maybe high net worth individuals, this is a time when you want to preserve your wealth. For corporates, the same thing as well. And in the analogy I gave earlier, this whole situation, the way that it impacts our economy is that it creates a situation where we have a challenge with the currency, where the currency then loses value. And as our currency loses value, you also lose some of your wealth. Like I said earlier, what you would buy with, if you were to buy $10,000 about maybe 3 years ago, maybe what you needed was about maybe 3.6 million or so. Today, you certainly need over 4 million naira to buy same $10,000. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that we do here is, if you will, sort of dollarized, because almost everything is imported and is denominated in US dollars. So one of the ways to actually preserve your wealth is look for investment opportunities, that will help you do that. And one of the things that we do at Commercial Partners Asset Management, one of the solutions that we have is a US dollar denominated type investment. You also find that some people have, before now, maybe months leading up to now, some people had even started to speculate about a possible devaluation or a drop in the value of the naira, and they've been, buying up dollars and putting it in their account. Yeah, it's okay to buy those dollars, but just leaving it in your account is value destruction, really. It does nothing in your account. It just stays there and really earns no value. So one of the solutions that we have as Commercial Partners Asset Management is a dollar investments platform. What it allows you to do is invest in, US dollar denominated, fixed income instruments. So by that, you invest in, on the line of either Euro bonds or in a bucket of Euro bonds that gives you what I'll call really decent returns in this period. So we have two variants of that product. We have the one that is essentially a structure where we basically bulk, investors together, and that's tailored for investors who don't have, significant amounts of dollars. Maybe you have anywhere from $25,000 to maybe $100,000 or $150,000. Because for you to invest in the underlying instruments, you need a minimum lot size of $200,000. So for investors that don't have up to that, we still have you covered. We have a platform or a structure that allows you to invest a minimum of $25,000 and you can earn really decent returns. The minimum investment period is for 6 months. You can run it for a year or a year and a half. While for large corporates and high net worth individuals who even have the firepower, who have 300, 500, up to $1 million just sitting in their account in this time, we have a structure that also allows you to buy directly into Eurobonds. And, for those, you can earn significant returns on your dollar investments, anywhere between 6% to around 10%, depending on how much you're investing and for how long you're investing it for. If you were to leave that in your bank account, you'll probably be getting anywhere between 0.2 to 0.3%. In some cases, you'll be getting almost nothing. So even if you have bought dollars, even if you have secured yourself in such a way to preserve your wealth by just buying dollars, it doesn't end there. You have to invest that to earn returns. So that's one of the major solutions that we have right now. I mean, I remember very clearly in 2015, 16, when we had a semblance of what we're having right now, really an economic challenge where, the naira is, losing value. a lot of corporates lost, significant portions of their wealth. A lot of high net worth individuals also lost significant portions of their wealth. So I think one of the best solutions right now is to avail yourself of that opportunity we offer through that Eurobond investment or that dollar investment that will give you, really competitive returns, very, very liquid. It helps to diversify your portfolio, it helps you to preserve and also to maintain your wealth. So I think for high net worth individuals and corporates, that's a major thing they should consider and look at, because really in these times, you want to ensure that the $3 million that you were worth now, you are probably worth a little more 2 years down the line. Not that you were worth $3 million now, and then by the time you go back and you check it in Naira terms, you are worth barely 1.5 million. So these are critical issues that people need to consider, and we have the solutions to help you do that at Commercial Partners Asset Management.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So how can you guys be reached? How can we reach Commercial Partners, and how can we reach the SME unit of MTN? So let's go with Victor.
Okay. So for that, basically, you can check up on our website, commercialpartners.com. You can also send an email to assetmanagement@commercialpartners.com. I'm going to leave some more details in the chat room. So if anybody wants to reach out to us, you can easily do that.
All right. Thank you, Victor. Beyond Let's Talk NGM at mtn.com, how else can we reach MTN's SME unit?
Okay, so also the website, mtnbusiness.com. You can go there, .com.ng. You can go there and just look through the suite of solutions for small businesses and large enterprises. The Let's Talk is primarily the website that the SME unit uses. So if you have any inquiries, just put it there. Also, what you need to know is we also curate solutions. So if you have particular needs that you believe a telco can help you with, you can also send your requirement to us, and we'll take it and engage you also to get you a solution.
Fantastic. So thank you so much to you. Thank you, Victor. For us at the Bulb, we are a platform for tech startups. So there are a lot of SMEs in our own community that may need to talk to the likes of you, Dami. So you and I will continue the conversation outside of here. And Victor, thank you so much for your insight on economy. Thank you so much for the advice for businesses and for individuals.
Thank you.
Now, we don't have any questions. I believe this has been very good. If we can do this again, it'll be nice. The next session goes on at 1 o'clock, where we'll be talking about tech. We're going to be talking about how tech is, making the difference right now, and the future of technology in African businesses. That session will be hosted by the host and producer of Everything Digital Africa, Faith History. My CEO, Richmond Ogigai, will be on the panel. And then we have Feishayo from AFF and Deji Olowe from Trium Networks. This will be an interesting session. Please share, please tune in. And then again, thank you for everyone who has been a part of this. Please remember, #AllOverCovid-19. Thank you to our panels, and thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.